I'm very happy to have a conversation today on luxury, the trends in luxury and sustainability with a super expert and actually a very good friend of mine, Claudia D'Arpizio from Bain Company. So Claudia, thanks for being here with us today and excited about starting this conversation with you.
Thank you, Marco. I'm sure we will have a very nice conversation and thank you for inviting me.
So I will start with the first question for you, Claudia. The first question is about the definition of luxury and how it evolved over time, in your opinion.
Yeah. So this is a kind of a broad question, and I think we could talk for hours about this question. And I think the definition of luxury has been changing over the years, and it's quite even controversial. Even the word luxury is for sure controversial and doesn't capture the richness of the offer of the brands in the sector and how this is evolving. So let's say that the luxury started as products that had superior value in terms of quality, exceptional raw materials, strongly rooted in an artisanal savoir-faire and superior aesthetic, and also probably there was an element of discovery. So these products were linked to a territory, to some places, often in Italy or France, where these kind of artisanal skills were more developed. So for luxury customers, for consumers, it was difficult to access to these products. You had to travel to Italy maybe to access to a Gucci bag back in the times, and or to go to Paris for some of these products. And so accessibility has been the first lever of big change. At a certain point, this industry has been growing, creating a big access, democratizing, like we said in the past, opening the doors. I think Alain-Dominique Perrin was CEO at Cartier at that time, was talking about la sortie du temple, so opening the doors for a broader public. That didn't mean only decreasing the average price, but even opening the doors of the stores, becoming more accessible, opening more stores. So luxury has become a consumer product, has become more accessible and even more, I would say, less elitist in the way brands have approached customers, becoming more friendly and really creating more opportunities for a broader public to access. Having said that, for many years, luxury has been synonymous of status symbol. In a way, it's a gift for yourself to underline your big moments, your self-actualization. While we see now that more and more these products are more meant to show off not wealth, but more your ability to self-express, your personality. So we see a change in the semantic and the meaning of the relationship between a human being and these products. If you think that the cavemen were using jewelry to charms bracelet as a trophy of their hunting or their successes, so this is an ancestral need of men that these brands are intercepting in different ways.
Thank you. And when it comes specifically to kind of this value aspects of luxury and when we talk about new luxury in this evolution, what do you think has been changing on that front?
We had a big change, I think, with millennials as customers that have created a different relationship with these brands. Again, shifting from aspiration to inspiration. So using these products not as status symbol per se, to show off success, wealth per se, but elements of self-expression. So enablers of their personality, enablers of their experiences. So we have been talking about millennials being a generation of people that were looking to a broader set of meaning, purpose, and looking for experiences. And so the brands have surfed this way, understood that there was a broadening of territories of conversation through which they could engage with consumers. And Gen Z, that is a generation after millennials, have really brought this to the extreme, that use these brands for sure to self-express themselves, but also to give a broader meaning, more also going up in the pyramid of Maslow, if you think, and not talking also only about the past, but trying to develop a better future also through these brands. So the meaning is evolving into I would say, cultural relevance and culture and creativity as a mean of self-expression and a way to also improve the world.
Very interesting. And is that creating any kind of conflicts across generations into luxury? And
No, not a conflict for sure. If you look to how the different generations answer to our surveys, when we do consumer surveys, there are big differences for sure. But we see also a big power of influence of the younger generations on the rest of the public. So we see parents and grandparents being strongly influenced, and for sustainability is for sure the most important topic, from the younger customers. And so we see Gen Z in particular being a strong target for luxury brands, not only because now they have more spending power, but also because they have a big power of influence vis-a-vis the older customers that still have the money and still are the core customers. So I don't see a conflict, I see an evolution, and there is kind of this millennial mindset where you see also very aged customers actually acting and changing their behaviors towards luxury. But there are quite significant differences on how they react to luxury brands. And Marco, do you see some trends in luxury when talking to your clients in the sector? Do you see some of these coming to life and becoming relevant for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, from our perspective, I think I would mention two elephant in the rooms in terms of mega trends that we are facing. Number one is sustainability. If I only compare, my early days at Fedrigoni, like 5 years ago, what we experience today, I mean, the pressure that we get from our customers, the intensity of their evolution on the sustainability front, probably also pushed by the kind of generational evolution that you just mentioned and beyond, is unparalleled. So of course that puts a lot of pressure on us, but also opens a huge number of opportunities for us if we manage to kind of serve this way, enable them to really make a difference on their sustainability footprint. So that would be the number one trend that we've seen accelerating big time. The second, especially through the recent cycles, including supply chain crisis, COVID before and then supply chain crisis, is awareness for luxury groups and brands on supply and chain complexity, and also counterparty risk, if that's the right word, in terms of having partners or suppliers that are totally reliable and solid through cycles across the globe, to really ensure agility and flexibility through shocks, in ensuring consistent quality and service globally wherever they need. So those two, if I need to pick up two, are the trends.
Yeah, also because this is not an artisanal industry anymore, so you need volumes and scale, and you need to reach these global customers everywhere. And how do you see the sustainability in particular impacting the manufacturing processes?
Well, significantly. I mean, both sustainability and even the second trend that I shared, they are in combination putting a decent momentum on what's normally called like reshoring. So all the luxury brands want to reshore, like especially when it comes to packaging value chain, but not only, but that's what we are exposed to, closer to the end customers. They don't want to be, shipping bags or empty boxes across the oceans. Again, both for CO2 reduction, but also supply chain security. That's particularly visible in the US, where there was much more relying on Asia. Europe converting and packaging a value chain was clearly deeper, but even in Europe we see that. So that has been impacting what you need to do as a partner and supplier to cope with that. So for example, not to be self-referenced with Fedrigoni, but that's what inspired, among other drivers, the recent acquisition we made in US, because all the luxury brands, of course the global ones, let alone the regional ones, want packaging to be closer to them, and specifically on the paper side, that's the most relevant example, they want also paper being local to have the full carbon footprint and supply chain under control.
Yeah, and I think that overall, so beyond the packaging, but for Italy, this is a great opportunity, I think, because this is a place where we have a lot of producers that are small companies in clusters, and that where probably traceability and visibility on the supply chain and being close to where the product is conceived can be a very big competitive advantage. So sustainability for Italy and made in Italy is becoming and can become a big competitive advantage.
Absolutely. We see that actually downstream as well. Many winning converters and specifically into luxury space, but even sometimes printer are leveraging this to kind of localize their production as well closer to their customers. And so you see trends of emerging winners or groups that leverage that.
Yeah.
Looking at more specifically at product design world, do you see, as we talked about sustainability, any trade-off between beauty and sustainability indeed?
Yeah, unfortunately, I see now that there is a tension for sure between creativity and sustainability, and creativity always wins. And it's clear that sustainability has to start from the product, and so from the creative people and from their education to try to think to the product already having sustainability in mind. But we see this with the pressure that they have to develop so many collections, to really be on top of the trends, to grow. And we have seen in the recent stylistic transitions that there is a lot of pressure on these creative minds. Then sustainability becomes probably the last of their thoughts, even for the ones that are very sensible and very into the game. And so many times we see the trade-off happening for real. And this is, I don't see trade-off between beauty and sustainability. I see probably now a big trade-off between the growth that these brands want to achieve and the fact that this business is becoming and is more and even always more and more competitive, that they need to, in a way, always create new newness and new arguments of conversation with customers. So it's not only new products, but if you think new marketing events, new pop-up, new activations, this is polluting, so by definition. So it's all products that last for a small period of time. And this is in contrast for sure with sustainability, but at the same time, there is for sure a sustainable way of doing things, but probably the variable of time, I think it's the one that is the most critical one. So how much you should grow, and also which is the time that you want to give to this creativity to be digested by the customers, and which is the right life cycle of a luxury product. So a luxury product should be durable product in theory, no? So this is in contrast with injecting in the market so many products every month, every week. And so here is where I see the trade-off right now.
Understand, and that totally resonates with also what we see in our value chain, when indeed speed and the end versus or mentality into the luxury space is a difficult equation to calibrate, and indeed being super responsive and comprehensive in helping them, again in our small role, into optimizing the sustainability footprint without adding too many trade-offs, but without even falling into legends or for misperceptions also on the sustainability side. So that's super interesting.
Yeah, I think that's it's your role as suppliers to solve some of these trade-off at the beginning, no? So they don't have to have the trade-off. So that's
indeed they need to understand if there is one and have a solution. That's indeed a game changer on many new projects.
Fedrigoni is an Italian brand. It's a made in Italy proposition. How do you think this is still important in 2024, and what made in Italy really mean for customers and in luxury in particular?
Well, I think, as you quickly alluded to before, I think Made in Italy still stands for obsession for quality and details, creativity, both on the visual, so on the creativity in
Problem solving.
exactly, and problem solving more in general, and also innovation. Also, I would say, and that's back to what we just discussed, something I think relevant, I don't know what you think, but for the luxury space, which is speed. So decisions need to be taken quickly. Planning is not that easy, especially in volatile environments. With the different seasons, etc. So we see the Made in Italy or the Italian approach to it pretty helpful, or let's say the Mediterranean approach to it pretty helpful in terms of adapting quickly, not being too rigid. So it's still making a difference. The allure, even very far from here and on non-pure luxury segments, I think it still plays a relevant role. It needs to. On the other hand, also back on the supply chain and risk management discussion we had before, it needs to be coupled with a scale, consistent quality service and compliance, broadly speaking, across the globe. So it needs to be balanced. There's no longer only craftsmanship, at least not in our industry, at least. It's not only that, it needs to be much more than that.
Yeah. Bringing the beauty of the small into
scale.
Scale. Yeah.
And consistency. Yeah. So now I would, more than a question, would be a curiosity, but not much for me because I've been knowing you and had the pleasure of crossing paths a number of times in different lives, but more for the audience, a curiosity about your professional path. I mean, what made you so interested into diving so deep on luxury so that you became like a super guru on the luxury space as an advisor?
Yeah. No, as always happens, it was by accident. So I started working at Bain as an AC, like you, I think. And I was working for many different clients, and actually I was not finding at the beginning something that was super near to my skills, and it was so interesting for me. So I was already, after I think 6 months, thinking to quit. So I bumped into this first case for an Italian jeweler that was in a big growing path, and actually there were some former Bain people working as executives that called us for a consultancy project. Even if the company was small and not used to work with consultants, there was this management team also coming from Procter & Gamble that was very curious about learning more on the sector. And so we started working there. Actually, I fight at Bain to get that staffing. And actually, I immediately realized that this sector was kind of really meeting with my skills. So I had a very strong, I would say, humanistic background. Then I did economics at university, but with mixed feelings always. I thought maybe I should do classic studies, so I was always in between. So I found that the magic and the science of this sector, so the fact that for sure there was a big need of professionalism, of creating scale, of growth, and to put the scientific managerial approach into the sector, and this has been instrumental for the growth of the sector. And this was the phase, the late 90s, when this was all happening. LVMH was acquiring, Gucci Group was growing, so there was that miraculous phase. At the same time, there was a lot of intangible, there was a lot of cultural, there was a lot linked to humans and social aspects that were very much intriguing for me, and where I understood that I had a specific angle. So I had that curiosity, that ability to read the intangible. So actually, probably I was the best at Bain at that time to really understand that. So my colleagues were kind of really scared about conversation with creative people, and not talking about numbers or just the EBITDA or the economic results, but also talking about the products and the intrinsic aspect. So I really understood that this was left and right brain, and this was probably something that I was very good at. And so that from that moment, I understood that probably this is for sure I didn't understood rationally immediately, but I understood that I liked working with them, and so I tried to learn more and become needed for them. So that was and then I started really developing the consulting sector for this industry that was very entrepreneurial, still is entrepreneurial, very difficult for consulting firm to work with these small companies, entrepreneurial led. But then step by step, we really created a center of excellence, and so it's been a passion. But I was not a fashion person. I was not really into fashion or luxury as a person. So it grew this passion with really understanding the cultural aspect of that.
Okay.
And for you, Marco, since we met at Bain, so we have this background as consultants, did you ever thought at that time to end up working for Fedrigoni, for a company in this sector? How do you see your path and coming to that?
I definitely didn't expect that, and even a few months before joining, actually, if you asked me, I would have said no, it's probably unlikely. But like many stuff in your life and careers, sliding doors and help. So I was intrigued by the change of ownership. So a part of my prior life into private equity came into play, both in terms of institutions, in terms of industry, and in terms of people. Like, it's always super critical. It came into play. So when Bain Capital bought the business back in 2018 from the founding family, of course they had a vision to totally transform the business, leveraging on a huge heritage and a huge competence and distinctiveness, and a very specific value proposition already, but of course accelerate. And that itself as an agenda, coupled with the people aspect, i.e. the personal relationship with Bain Capital, and within that with our chairman Ivano, who was a former colleague of ours back in the days. There was like a trigger, and the next was done by touching, even from outside before joining, not just the agenda and the story to create within Fedrigoni in my new tenure, but also including creating, evolving the team, having a lot of, a very transformative agenda, but also touching the product that I'm clearly not an expert on, and the passion that came with 130 years of history and a huge number of successes that the company already had celebrated over time. So I rarely, and having been exposed to many different industries, many different cultures in many different countries in the globe, I was actually impacted or touched by what I saw, and that was great. And in the hindsight, there was a fantastic sliding door and a great choice I made in joining, because again, leveraging on that passion and competence and the super transformative agenda and a fantastic partnership with Bain Capital before, and now with Bain Capital and BC Partners that are together a fantastic kind of platform and partnership. We made a great journey so far, and we have a lot more to be done. So I feel like privileged in having done it. But clearly wasn't planned and wasn't expected in terms of brand and industry.
Yeah, I think this is similar to our path, and that probably we have a payoff now, because I think that similar to Fedrigoni and luxuries is passion at scale, we can say. No? So passion, but to bring to the right scale. So thank you.
That's a great closing.
Closing.
Fantastic.
Passion at scale, yes.
we keep it as an inspiring claim for us in the coming steps of our journey. But Claudia, very grateful for your being here with us today, and look forward to the next conversation and the next steps of our partnership. So thanks.
Thank you.